Good evening, everyone. Welcome. We're ready to start today's meeting. It is 5:39. Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Ms. De La Vega? Present. Ms. Garcia Robles?
Present.
Ms. Perez? Absent. Mr. Rodriguez is absent. Mr. Tunidol? Absent. Mr. Zogby?
Present.
Mr. Junco?
Present.
Madam President, you have enough members to conduct business.
Okay, moving on to the invocation led by the city clerk and the pledge of allegiance by Council Member De La Vega.
Lord, we thank you for your continuous blessings and pray that you continue to guide us in benefit of our city. Amen. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Meeting guidelines.
The following guidelines have been established by the City Council. All lobbyists must register with the city clerk. As a courtesy to others, please refrain from using cellular telephones or other similar electronic devices in the chamber. A maximum of 3 speakers in favor and 3 speakers in opposition will be allowed to address the council on any one item. Each speaker's comments will be limited to 3 minutes. No signs or placards in support of or in opposition to an item or speaker shall be permitted within the council chamber. Any person, whether participating via web platform, telephonic conferencing, or physical presence at City Hall, interested in making comments or posing questions on matters of public concern or on any item on the agenda may do so during the meeting. Members of the public may address the City Council on any one item pertaining to city business during the comments and questions portion of the meeting. A member of the public is limited to 1 appearance before the City Council, and the speaker's comments will be limited to 3 minutes. Individuals should be respectful of elected officials and staff that are on the dais and make every effort to speak with moderate tone using appropriate language and avoiding personal attacks. Members of the public in the audience shall refrain from shouting or making remarks from their seats to the mayor, council members, or staff sitting on the dais. The public can view public meetings on the city's YouTube page.
Okay, do we have anyone registered in comments and questions?
Yes, ma'am. You sure?
Okay, before comments and questions, we have a presentation.
Presentation of certificate of congratulations to Ricky Vilido, rising country artist, for his success in his recent South Florida music tour.
Is he here? Yes. He stepped out. Do we go back to comments and questions? Okay, let's go back to comments and questions then.
First speaker, Barbara Canales.
Hi, Barbara Canales, 1681 West 68th Street, Hialeah, Florida, 33014. On behalf of the citizens of Hialeah, remember Pretty Prairie. It's still nothing pretty at Hialeah as well. We need more police activity in our block for stop signs, for speedings, and force the 48 hours parking law on Hialeah as well. As I speak tonight, there is a 4-door gray car parked across the street of my house. It's blocking the new recent planted tree to get water. So poor trees, no water, just like California. Please don't trash our treasure. Nobody stops at the stop sign. Speeding is still the same. The stop sign on West 16 Drive and West 68th Street, nobody stops. On August 27 of 2024, while I was driving there, I looked at Hialeah as well, and there it was, a black minivan. And as I drive by, I saw a man laying like this in his minivan. And I turned around and I told my mom, Mom, I think that man is dead. Let's call the police. She said, no. If you call the police, he's going to be arrested. He might be passed out from last night. Later on that day, around 1 o'clock, I drove by there on Hialeah Swell, close to my house, a few houses down. The man's still in the same position. My family member said, Leave it alone. The police come, he could be arrested because he might be drunk." Later on the same day, I drive by again. Obviously, I live there. It's right across from my house. And there he was, not moving. I immediately called the police. And yes, he was dead. That dead man was laying there, I don't know, for the whole day, dead on Hialeah Swell. Still the same, nothing had changed. That man could be alive or something could have been done if that Hialeah Swell, nobody here cares, nobody here listens. Nothing has happened. Still the same. 40 BMW last week, no license plate, not even a ticket. Parked there for month after month after month. Nobody cares. It's very easy. 4-letter words. CARE. Care. That's it. Please do something.
Okay. Thank you. Moving on. Do we have another speaker?
Jackie Gill.
Oh, please make note that Councilmember Perez is present.
Noted.
Jacqueline Gil Barzua, 474 East 13th Street. Good evening, Mayor Bobo, councilmen, and distinguished members. Basically, I am here to oppose policy 287. Law enforcement should have a sense of trust with the community. This policy is going to break that trust. This program will deputize local law enforcement officers to act like immigration agents. And while some may claim this is for our residents' safety, it's actually quite the opposite. What happens when a victim of domestic violence is scared to report? What about when a victim of crime is scared to report because they're scared to be detained? What's happened when human traffickers and child abusers and all these kind of negative influencers, their victims will not come forward because they're scared of being detained? Simple. Crime is going to go unreported, criminals are going to go unpunished, and our streets are going to be less safe for everyone. Now, law enforcement should be a source that is a safety for residents, regardless of their immigration status. We should be looking at our police officers to do their jobs, law enforcement, not federal jobbing, not federal requirements. Hialeah's property crime rate is lower than the national median of 19 per 1,000 residents. Our crime rate, according to a study conducted by Local 10, we are the second safest city in the state of Florida besides Port St. Lucie. So basically what I'm trying to say, our law enforcement officers in the city of Hialeah are doing what they have to do. So why are we going to impose them with more responsibilities and more duties when they should be catering to what they're actually doing a very good job of? As a taxpaying resident of the city of Hialeah, I feel that policy 287 does not favor our residents, and I hope this will affect our policymakers will understand this and take that into consideration. And enjoy the rest of your evening. Thank you. Thank you. Do we have anyone else?
For the record, Councilmember Dundidor is present. Julio Rodriguez.
Hi. He came here, but by the time he came here, the people that were signing for public comments had left, even though it was prior to the meeting beginning. Is there any way he could speak as well?
Yeah, I'll let him speak.
Yeah, sure. I'll speak now. I'll go out. Okay. Thank you, brother.
But is he the speaker that?
Sorry, let me just.
No,
But we're having a speaker that called.
you're the speaker that was called up, right?
Yeah.
So
I
you
mean,
should speak
you
and
should
then-
speak and then you can go.
Perfect.
Name and address for the record, please.
All right, sorry about that. Julio Rodriguez, 754 West 33rd Street, Hialeah, Florida. Good evening, Mayor and council members. Same issue I want to speak on is a resolution about our local law enforcement working with ICE. I understand local law enforcement partnering up with federal agencies to execute warrants, things of that nature, because it protects the public, it protects agents and things like that. And there's a time and place for that. But my issue with this resolution that it would make our local police officers immigration officials, right? In a sense. So how are they to decide who's here legally, who's not? We all know that a lot of immigrants are going to lose their temporary protected status and asylum seekers. I know firsthand there's thousands of them here in the city working. I work alongside a lot of them who their immigration status is going to be up in the air. And I don't know if that's the best resources of our city to try to arrest them, have them deported in a city that we're all here because of immigration, right? And my thing is that this is a very divisive issue, right? And if the city wants to go ahead and do that partnership, why don't we put it on the ballot in November? From what I understand, there is an election in November. I'm not sure if I'm 100% correct. So why don't we put it on the ballot? Let the residents decide if that's how they want their resources to be used, and that is to deport their neighbors, family, and friends. So thank you so much for your time.
Thank you. Name and address for the record.
My name's Tony Marcial Oliveira, 392 West 13th Street, Hialeah, Florida, 33010. I would like to speak today to say that I strongly oppose the 287 G agreement, the same thing that the previous two speakers were speaking about, or the memorandum of agreement with ICE, for three reasons. It's expensive, it is unnecessary, and it's harmful. Number one, it's very expensive. Who foots the bill for this program? It's taxpayers. All right. State and local governments are responsible for all personnel costs and all administrative supplies. This is not cheap. This is several $1 million per year. A 2010 report said that in Mecklenburg County, when they implemented this program, this is North Carolina, it cost $5.3 million the first year. Alamance County, North Carolina, $4.8 million the first year. Prince William County, Virginia, $6.4 million. Over 5 years, it would have been $26 million. All right. In fact, it was so expensive in Prince William County, Virginia, they had to raise property taxes and take money from the emergency fund of the county to implement the program fully. Obviously, extremely expensive, very wasteful. Not just that, we live in Hialeah, not an affordable place right now, especially with surging prices. Number two, this is harmful. In previous instances of this program's implementation, it has been shown to cause racial discrimination and constitutional violations against Latinos. All right, a 2011 investigation by the Department of Justice concluded that Maricopa County in Arizona, under Sheriff Joe Arpaio, routinely conducted unlawful sweeps of Latino neighborhoods, and Latino drivers in certain parts of the county were up to 9 times more likely to be stopped than non-Latino drivers. Discrimination. Department of Justice in 2012 concluded that in Alamance County Sheriff's Office, they violated the constitutional rights of its residents by unlawfully detaining and arresting Latinos. Not just that, they set up checkpoints and entrances of Latino neighborhoods, and Latino drivers were up to 10 times more likely to be stopped than non-Latino drivers. Not just that, but Latino drivers were often arrested for violations that non-Latinos were just given citations for. Not only is this harmful, not only is this wasteful, it is unnecessary. All right, I'm just going to say it clearly, immigrants are not the problem. It's a myth that immigrants cause more crime, and it's a myth that they are not valuable additions to our community. As we all know, we're all children of immigrants mostly. I'll go through the numbers. Extensive research has shown since 1960s, immigrants are 60% less likely to be incarcerated than U.S.-born people. Do you know, in general, the data suggests either that immigration has the effect of reducing average crime, or more likely, there's simply no relationship between the two. Immigrants unequivocally do not increase crime. Look at Hialeah. Number two, immigrants also contribute immensely, especially in the realm of taxes. In 2022, undocumented immigrants alone paid $1.8 billion in state and local taxes, contributing to programs that they do not have access to, right? That's a larger share of their income towards taxes than the wealthiest 1% of residents. That's 7.9% versus 2.7%. So I urge you, my city council, not to terrorize your own community with this wasteful, harmful, and unnecessary agreement. Thank you for your time. I appreciate it.
Thank you. Is there anyone else?
No one else is registered, ma'am.
Okay, moving on to presentations. He's here now? Okay,
The only crab boy in the audience.
okay, so
We have,
he comes up,
yeah, I know.
you, Ricky, come up.
Wait, make the announcement and we have.
Presentation of a certificate of congratulations to Ricky Valido, rising country music artist, for his success in his recent South Florida music tour.
Good evening, everybody. First of all, I want to thank the city of Hialeah, our mayor, Esteban Bovo Jr., the council, and this amazing community that gave me this gift, the gift of country music. I know it's not the most common place for country music to come out of, but I'm proud to say that I'm the first one out of Hialeah to really bring country music to the world map. And this is the place where my grandparents settled from Cuba when they came in the 1960s. And it all started off with a gift. My great-grandmother gave me a guitar, and then I soon started listening to old records my grandfather left behind, old country music records. And I think a mixture of both of those things set me on this journey that I am today of making country music. I also want to say that this year I put out my first album, a collection of songs, and many more albums to come from there, and always taking Hialeah in my heart everywhere I go. So it's an honor to be a resident of the city, to live in the city, and to bring country music not only to the city, but outside of the city into the world. And the last words I want to say is that Hialeah pa siempre, in my heart, en mi corazón. Muchas gracias.
Right. Council members, if you could all join me. And Ricky, I'm not gonna read the whole thing, but there's one thing that stands out here, the term Hialeah Hillbillies, which is fantastic. So we're celebrating our 100th year anniversary as a city. And we take a lot of pride in that. And we realize that the city didn't start in 1959. The city has a long history. And ironically, many would say back in the day, this was a redneck town, right? So I don't know if there's a correlation there with country music or not, but anyways, we're proud. We're proud of your journey. We're proud of where you're still to go. And we know that wherever you go, you take the Hialeah name with you. And of that, we appreciate you, brother, okay? And so this is kind of like a Ricky Valido day. I don't know how many hours are left in the day. So just don't do any crimes, please, okay? So.
Okay, announcements of amendments or corrections to the agenda.
Consent item L, 10L has been added to today's agenda.
Okay, board appointments.
None, ma'am.
Consent agenda. Would any council member like to pull an item? Pleasure of the board.
Motion.
If I may pull an item? Sure. Item K. Here we have a item K, and we have a motion by Zogby. We have a second?
Second.
A second by Dood.
Ms. De La Vega,
Yes.
Ms. Garcia Robles,
Yes.
Ms. Perez,
Yes.
Mr. Tundidor,
Yes.
Mr. Zogby,
Yes.
Mr. Junco.
Yes.
Motion carries. The consent agenda has passed except item K.
Okay, item K.
Proposed resolution authorizing the mayor, the chief of police, and the city clerk on behalf of the city to enter into a memorandum of agreement with the United States Immigration and Customs Enforcement, a component of the Department of Homeland Security, as a participating United States government agency to provide for operational assistance pertaining to enforcement of laws to combat illegal immigration from the effective date of the agreement, a copy of which is part hereof as Exhibit A, and providing for an effective date.
Councilwoman, you're recognized.
Thank you, Madam. I know that this is a heavily discussed topic. I received several concerns and outreach, and as we can see today, we've had several people come before us with some concerns. I would like just to kind of go through it and give a little bit of peace to the community. I think they deserve a little bit of an explanation. Just as there's a big misconception, I believe, on the story that's being told, what's being said. And I stand by our department. I stand in support of the item. However, I would appreciate just a little bit of clarity on the item for those that don't understand it.
Good evening. Good evening. George Fuente, Chief of Police of Hialeah. All right, this agreement does not weaponize our Hialeah police officers against our city of Hialeah residents. Our city of Hialeah police officers today, tomorrow, they will continue to do what they do every day, which is go out and provide services to the safest city in South Florida. Our men and women go out daily without asking for people's immigration papers or where they're from. They're there to ensure our community's safety. I want to start off by saying that none of this, I don't want this to prevent anyone, any victim, any witness, anyone from calling our police department to ensure that their cases get resolved, to report a problem, to report a case. That's not what I want. That's not what's going to happen. All this agreement does is, like we do with all other federal and state agencies now, if they request support, we would help them out. I will do that today with any local, federal, state agency that requests such assistance. This agreement will have me select however many officers I select to train, to allow to be trained by immigration to understand their protocols and what can and can't be done when it comes to certain operations that they conduct, that they perform. This does not entail that our officers, our department's going to be going out there and doing immigration raids, stopping people and asking them for their papers. That's not what our department's going to be doing. What it does is it offers us the ability to get training for the officers that we select, and it doesn't hold us back from grants that our department can receive in the future.
Thank you, Chief. And so our first job as Hialeah PD is to go out and continue with our work. However, in the event that we run upon somebody that has a warrant out for an arrest after, let's say they ran a stop sign, they're speeding, they're driving under the influence, then we follow up and understand the laws of immigration, right? That's what this is.
Criminals that have
Understand-
warrants will be taken to jail, and TGK also is part of this agreement, that they also contact immigration if they have any type of administrative warrant on file for that individual. So individuals that commit crimes in our city now and today and tomorrow, well, yes, we have zero tolerance for that, and they will be taken to jail.
Okay. As far as this resolution, are we exclusive to passing this in Florida? Are we leading the way? Have we had other departments lead in this?
All these sheriff's offices, including Miami-Dade County, have signed it. I believe earlier today, Coral Gables. I'm not going to talk about other cities that I'm not 100% sure of because that's not for me to speak about. I know that obviously we're in this today.
Okay, so we're not leading in the forefront. This is something that's
The
already been
Miami-Dade County
replicated
Sheriff's Office has
throughout.
already signed on.
Correct. Okay. All right. That's all I wanted to know. Thank you so much, Chief. I appreciate that.
You're recognized.
Thank you, Madam Councilwoman, for pausing this and asking for a much needed explanation. We all needed that. I just want to thank you. I just wanted to remind everybody because the message and the narrative and the misinformation will be that now we will be actively separating families. Babies will be crying as we tear their parents out of their arms. Nothing of the sort. First of all, we just had a swearing in here right before the official meeting. And it starts with an oath of office that is read to every United States police officer. It's not exclusive to Hialeah. And they all start with, they take an oath, they promise, they swear that I will support, protect, and defend the Constitution and government of the United States. Then it goes on to the respective state, the state of Florida, the charter of the city Hialeah. But first and foremost, we are defenders of our nation. We have any officer or any agency that has administered this oath, and they all have, and they renege on this, they're the ones that are committing the crime. We have sworn, our law enforcement are sworn to protect and defend the laws and the Constitution of the United States. This happens to be the law now. And to those who think that this is a novelty, like the chief said, we've been signing MOUs, MAUs, mutual agreements of understanding for years and years with every neighboring agency, every federal agency, every state agency. This is no different. Police officers routinely, if we're investigating a crime, if we run somebody's background and they happen to have a federal warrant, an out-of-state warrant from Wyoming, an out-of-county warrant, we detain. We don't renege on well, it's not Hialeah, so we're just going to let this person who's wanted just go away because we have enough things to do in our town. No. First of all, we have to protect the United States. That, as far as I know, we haven't seceded from the Union yet. Therefore, we must follow in this particular agreement. We're following federal law and state law that has been signed by the governor. So we are obligated. Our law enforcement is obligated to cooperate in this, and we certainly are not going to become. So take that thought, eradicate that thought out of your minds to whoever's going to lie to you with the message of we're going to be immigration agents and we're going to be first and foremost stopping people and asking them about their immigration status. That is never going to happen. We check for outstanding warrants routinely to anybody, and we've been accepting and enforcing those warrants, taking those people into custody, no matter where the warrant is from. It could be from Alaska, it could be from New Jersey, whatever part of the United States, and some overseas warrants. So I'm in support of this, and this is basically what we're supposed to do as a city and a state in the United States. We're following federal law and we're cooperating. Thank you.
I have just a very quick question, Chief, if you could. Does anything in this order contemplate that the police department is going to raid any establishments or churches?
No, sir.
And does anything contemplate here that if we pull somebody over, apart from their license, and insurance, we're gonna also ask them for immigration documents?
No, sir.
All right. So I think it's extremely important to understand. There's a fine line, a very fine line in a city like this one that has been built by legal immigrants. Very fine line, as opposed to illegal immigrants. And let's be mindful, the person that comes into the country illegally has already violated our laws, the laws of this country, okay? And if on top of that, they violate another law, okay? Despite all the statistics that could be spouted by every pro-open border group out there, okay? The moment you violate the law to enter this country, okay, the keys to the American dream become elusive. The person who lives here illegally is chasing the 8-ball for the rest of their lives, okay? What we should be encouraging, especially in this community, is legal immigration, because we're all in favor of legal immigration. My parents are products of legal immigration, like many of your parents, if not you directly, okay? Speaking to you, Uncle. So that's what we should be promoting, okay? Our department has had a history of supporting multiple agencies when they conduct their business. Warrants, investigations, what have you, our police department supports those efforts, okay? We have invested in this department to send them not only to, FDLA training, but to the FBI. That's what a professional police department does, okay? And if you read the backup, okay, state law indicates there's not questions here. You can't choose which law you want to enforce or not enforce. State law is very clear here, okay? We have to comply with state law. That's what we have to do. And the reason our statistics, as we were swearing in officers earlier, the statistics in this community are where they're at is because of the collaboration between our residents and our police department and the confidence that has been built over years between our residents and our police department. I don't see anything here that's going to all of a sudden shake the foundation of that relationship. None whatsoever. Many might want to go and put fear mongering out there so everybody gets nervous, okay? But tomorrow morning, it'll be business as usual in the city of Hialeah. Nothing will change.
I motion.
Second.
I second, yeah.
Okay, I have a motion by Zogby and a second by Tundidor.
Ms. Garcia Robles?
Yes.
Ms. Perez?
Yes.
Mr. Dundidor?
Yes.
Mr. Zogby?
Yes.
Mr. Junco?
Yes.
Ms. De La Vega?
Yes.
Motion carries. The item is approved.
Okay, moving on to administrative items, 11A.
Second reading and public hearing of proposed ordinance amending in part Chapter 30 of the Code of Ordinances of the City of Hialeah entitled Elected Officials, and in particular amending Article 1 entitled In General to include Section 30-3 to be entitled Deferred Compensation Plan Established Purpose Name Effective Date, Section 30-4 to be entitled Contributions to the Deferred Compensation Plan, and Section 30-5 to be entitled Vesting and Deferred Compensation Plan, approving a deferred compensation plan for elected officials, designating an appropriate official of the city to approve and administer the deferred compensation plan, repealing all ordinances or parts of ordinances in conflict herewith, providing for inclusion in the code, providing for a severability clause, and providing for an effective date.
Okay, this item's on second reading. It's open for comments. No one? Pleasure of the board? It's open, it's over for the public. Okay, so there's no one, pleasure of the board?
If I may, Madam. Yes, Rafael, can you please just walk me through it a little bit, please?
Yes, of course. This is a deferred compensation plan. It's very similar to what's offered to the civilian employees, the regular employees of the city now, and exists for everybody else. It is not a defined benefit pension. It's not, so what it means is that the council members can start contributing any money that they wish up to the 7%, presuming this is enacted. The city will match that up to 7%. The amounts are quite modest. The city council members would vest 5 years of service to the city. There's a vesting. The members who have served 5 years already vest now, who have been in service 5 continuous years, but there are no payments, only start going forward. There's no payments from before. Payments only start going forward. And the plan would be administered by our same deferred compensation plan manager, who I think is under the Division of Retirement and HR, I think is nationwide, And so that is pretty much what is involved. It's again, it's a deferred compensation plan. So you have the election. If you wish to put it in yourself and the city, you'll only get the city money though when you vest. If you leave before the 5 years, you haven't vested, and there would be no city money paid to you. You would just get your money.
And there's no retroactive. It's
There is no
after fact,
retroactivity.
right?
No, council
Okay.
member. There's no retroactivity.
As it pertains to other municipalities, how does this compare the percentage rate? And as this deferred plan, this is something that other cities do. I know that Coral Gables has something that's much less modest than, or much more modest than what we have, right? Ours is much more modest than theirs.
Yes, much
Um,
more modest. I
so-
mean, I
As it
believe,
compares, I just want to,
right, I believe that a comparison was done. And perhaps, you want to address that comparison, because I don't want to speak out of a comparison was done. But yes, it is more modest than many of the other jurisdictions.
Good afternoon, Ruth Ruby, Finance Management. Comparison was done of multiple cities. This is a very modest percent. Other cities basically have either a pension or a 457 that is much more aggressive. But it was conducted as part of a full study.
so it's not something that's uncommon. It's
No,
something
on the
that,
contrary, what's uncommon is
is
what we
not having a
currently
pension.
have here at the city,
correct.
right? So council members are considered employees, and all employees are basically should have certain benefits, and this is just a benefit.
Okay. And as far as the percentage, other percentages that we've seen are up 15%.
14, 15, 20%, it just depends.
It's much higher than
Yes,
this.
much higher than what
Okay.
we're basically placing
Okay.
before you today.
And then it's capped after if that elected official stays here up to 12 years, but not necessarily. So the person could be here 3, 4 years, maybe only do 2 terms. And then it would be stopped, right? Until they're an elected official.
So, I'm sorry, I'm not
It's
understanding.
capped. It's
It
capped
has-
until you're in your position, in other words.
It's, well, as a council member,
Mhm.
you're vested after 5 years, so you basically have to serve 2 terms,
Okay.
correct? After that is when your vesting kicks in.
Okay. All right. Okay.
And
That's
then
what,
it continues while you're in office. It ends.
when you're
Right.
no
It
longer.
It ends when you're no longer
Doesn't-
here.
There's no
And it's-
continue, once you
correct.
leave office.
It's not like a pension that you
This
can
ends.
continue
No.
after you're done.
No, no,
It is
no.
not, right.
Yeah,
That's what I'm
you-
saying.
You're,
No.
you have the election of taking it with you, but it
Right.
ends at the point in time that you
That you're-
finish your service with the city.
Okay.
Yes.
No,
Yeah, that's what,
it's not a defined benefit pension,
Correct.
which is a payment for the right. No, this is just
Yeah.
for that period.
Right.
Deferred comp, that percentage
Mhm.
ends when you go, when you depart.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Ruby. I appreciate it.
Pleasure of the board.
Through the chair, second.
You're recognized.
Thank you again, Councilwoman, for bringing that up because there's been a lot of confusion, a lot of misinformation up there. Again, and thank you, City Attorney. Just to reiterate, because the information out there is we're giving ourselves golden parachutes, we're having a lifetime pension. This is no different than any other employment, any other government employer does, and what we give to all our employees, a contribution, a percentage of their salary that they can invest in a retirement savings account. No defined pension, as many years as they serve beyond their 5th year, and they start getting that contribution when they leave and they're no longer serving as an elected official. It's stopped. You walk away with whatever money you have in there, and that's your savings. There is no promise beyond that. There is no golden parachute. And am I at liberty to say what it's going to cost? Because people think it's going to cost a lot of money. For the 7 of us sitting here today on a yearly basis, not per person, not per elected official, for the 7 of us combined, the city's contribution will be about what? 21,000 and change. $21,000 a year divided amongst 7 of us. That is no golden parachute. That is nothing. That is a compensation for a job that hasn't had a CPI, a raise with the cost of living or anything in decades. So this is just a small contribution that we made sure that every other employee was getting before we got anything. And that's all it is. So it's no pension. It's not a big amount of money either. It's a very small amount of money. Thank you.
Okay. Pleasure of the board.
Motion.
Motion by Zogby. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second by Junco.
Ms. Perez,
Yes.
Mr. Tundidor has stepped away. Mr. Zogby,
Yes.
Mr. Junco,
Yes.
Ms. De La Vega,
Yes.
Ms. Garcia Robles.
Yes.
Motion carries. The item is approved.
Okay, moving on to 11B.
Second reading and public hearing of proposed ordinance amending chapter 70 of the Code of Ordinances of the City of Hialeah entitled Prohibition of Receipt and Retirement Benefits upon Election to City Office or City Employment, to be entitled Granting of Continuing Retirement Benefits upon Election to city office or city employment, to include granting retirement benefits to elected officials who held public office or were employed by the city of Hialeah and have since then returned to city office or city employment in a different capacity after such separation from the city, repealing all ordinances in conflict herewith, providing for penalties for violation hereof, providing for inclusion in the code, providing for a severability clause, and providing for a retroactive effective date of October 1st, 2021.
Okay, this item's also on second reading. It's open for the public. If no one, it's closed for the public and it's open for the dais.
Motion.
Motion by Zogby. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second by De La Vega.
Mr. Domingo is still away. Zogby, Mr. Zogby,
Yes.
Mr. Junco,
Yes.
Ms. De La Vega,
Yes.
Ms. Garcia Robles.
Yes.
Ms. Perez.
Yes.
Motion carries. The item is approved.
Okay, 11C.
Second reading and public hearing of proposed ordinance amending the future land use element of the City of Hialeah Comprehensive Plan to increase the permitted units per acre on properties participating in a mixed income affordable housing program, repealing all ordinances or parts of ordinances in conflict herewith, providing for penalties for violation hereof, providing for a severability clause, and providing for an effective date.
Okay, this item is also on second reading. It's open for public. If no one, it
Motion.
is motion by Zogby,
Second.
second by Junco.
Mr. Domingo is still away. Mr. Zogby,
Yes.
Mr. Junco,
Yes.
Ms. De La Vega,
Yes.
Ms. Garcia Robles.
Yes.
Ms. Perez.
Yes.
Motion carries. The item is approved.
Okay, moving on to 11D.
Second reading and public hearing of proposed ordinance approving the closure and vacation of a public alley of traversing land consisting of 10 feet as depicted and legally described in Exhibit A, repealing all ordinances or parts of ordinances in conflict herewith, providing penalties for violation hereof, providing for a severability clause, and providing for an effective date.
Yeah. This item is on second reading. It's open for the public. If no one,
Motion.
motion by Zogby,
Second.
second by Junco.
Mr. Zogby,
Yes.
Mr. Junco,
Yes.
Ms. De La Vega,
Yes.
Ms. Garcia Robles.
Yes.
Ms. Perez.
Yes.
Mr. Domingo is away. Motion carries. The item is approved.
Item 11E.
Approval of the appointment of Daniela Tamayo to the position of Housing and Community Service Director effective February 10, 2025, subject to civil service rules and regulations pursuant to section 2.02 subsection A4 of the city's charter.
Okay, pleasure of the board.
Motion.
Motion by De La Vega. Do we have a
Second.
Second by Zogby.
Mr. Junco,
Yes.
Ms. De La Vega,
Yes.
Ms. Garcia Robles.
Yes.
Ms. Perez,
Yes.
Mr. Domingo is away. Mr. Zogby,
Yes.
motion carries. The item is approved.
Item 11F.
Approval of the appointment of Alfredo Perez to the position of Fire Chief effective February 3rd, 2025, subject to civil service rules and regulations pursuant to section 2.02 subsection A4 of the city's charter.
Madam Chair?
You recognize?
Yeah, if I could just,
Not yet.
as,
We haven't voted.
okay. As all of you know, the former chief, has tendered his resignation at the end of last year. And at that time, I was in charge with making sure that we could, on a temporary basis, fill the position. I could tell you, Freddie has not only met my expectations, but I think he is the most qualified person to lead the department over the next couple of years. There are still challenges in the department, but Freddie is willing and able to confront them head on. So with that, obviously, I would ask for your favorable approval and allow him to lead our department and the good work that I think is to be done with our department. I hope I'm congratulating you, Freddie, in a couple of minutes.
Motion.
Motion by
Second.
Zogby.
Second.
Second by Perez.
Ms. De La Vega,
Absolutely, yes.
Ms. Garcia Robles.
Yes.
Ms. Perez,
Yes.
Mr. Domingo is away. Mr. Zogby,
Yes.
Mr. Junco.
Yes.
Motion carries. The item is approved.
Congratulations. Item G.
Approval of the appointment of Ismari Monreal to the position of Chief Operating Officer and Community Development Director effective March 3rd, 2025, subject to civil service rules and regulations pursuant to section 2.02 subsection A4 of the city's charter.
Madam President, if I might, over the last three and a half years, I've personally been proud of the work that all of us have been able to do in our city. You know, when we came here, there was a lot of things that needed to be addressed. Many of the issues that needed to be addressed, the public will never know about it. The reporters that cover here have never taken interest in the issues that we needed to deal with. And I could categorically tell you, we would not have advanced the ball if not for Ismari's role in the city. She's not only become a collaborator with every single department here. All I need to do is tell her what I want done, and it starts getting executed before she's left my office. And I think the asset she provides to the city is extremely important. And I think if we want to continue to move the city in the right direction, we need to retain good people. Ismari is good people and is loyal to the city of Hialeah, not to any one person personally. He's loyal to the city. So I would, again, enthusiastically recommend that you approve this item.
Motion.
Motion by
Second.
Tundido, second by Zogby.
Ms. Perez,
Yes.
Mr. Dundidor,
Yes.
Mr. Zogby,
Yes.
Mr. Junco,
Yes.
Ms. De La Vega,
Yes.
Ms. Garcia Robes.
Yes.
Motion carries. The item is approved.
Item H.
And ma'am, before we move on to item H, can I record Councilmember
Yes.
Dundidor's votes for administrative items? Sir, item 11A,
No.
11B,
Yes.
okay, 11C,
Yes.
11D,
Yes.
11E,
Yes.
11F.
Yes.
We voted on 11G. Thank you. Okay, license revocation hearing to determine if the business tax receipt of 8 Ball Cafeteria LLC located at 201 West 22nd Street, Hialeah, Florida 33010 should be revoked or suspended.
Evening, Mayor. Good evening, Council President, Council members, Madam Clerk. Today on the agenda, you probably are seeing something that is not usually on the agenda, and it's possible that we've never seen it on the agenda before. So I'll give a little explanation of what we're doing here. This business tax receipt was issued to the 8 Ball Cafeteria located at 201 West 22nd Street. The business tax receipt was issued for a restaurant operation. Over the past couple weeks, city staff and police and code enforcement have been involved in having to show up to this place of business and deal with multiple violations of our code. And at that time, the business tax administrator, Yesenia Gruich, who you'll hear from tonight, issued them a revocation on March 3rd. What we're asking you to do here today is, since she used her emergency power to revoke the license, we are asking that the city council, based on the code, uphold that revocation. Okay, when a business tax receipt is given for a restaurant, they are to adhere to section 6-66 of the city code. That lays forward all the regulations that a restaurant must follow regarding a 2 COP and a 4 COP. This is considered a 2 COP, and a 2 COP means that they are allowed to sell alcohol, which is beer and wine only, no liquor. So I'll be calling up 3 people from the city. Yesenia Gruich, the Director of Business Tax, Lieutenant Marlon Espinoza, who appeared at the scene that night, Sergeant Chris Perez, who also appeared, and Caleb Rodriguez, who was a member of our Code Enforcement Division, who appeared on behalf of Code Enforcement. What we intend to show you is that the 8-Ball Cafeteria is operating as more than just a restaurant. Is our contention that they're operating more as a nightclub, and that is not permitted by your code. We believe this to be a danger of the public health, safety, and welfare of the city, and at the end, we will request that you uphold the revocation that was issued by Yesenia Gruich. So first, I'll call Ms. Gruich.
If I may, Madam Council President, I don't know if the respondent, if the business is present. I'm going to ask the record to determine that they were noticed and that they know about this. And I'd like to know if the business is present.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Michael Wolf is representing the respondent, the BTR holder,
All right.
and he is here to respond, and he will definitely have a chance to respond to the city's presentation and can cross-examine anybody that we put up today.
Right. And I just wanted to establish that for the record. So what the council is going to be doing is either affirming the revocation or reversing the revocation. The council is the trier of fact. So based on the evidence you hear, you're either going to be comfortable that there was a violation and it warranted the revocation, or you're not and you can reverse it. But, you are the trier of fact here in this kind of hearing, which I realize is not routine in the city, but that's how it is. Are there any questions? And the council may ask questions themselves if they wish to.
Okay.
So with that, like I said, I'll call Yesenia Gruich, the Director of Occupational License, to explain her reasoning for the revocation and the background.
Good evening. My name is Yesenia Gruich, and I am the business tax official for the city of Hialeah, 501 Palm Avenue. I feel like this is. Good evening, Council President, council members, mayors, and staff. I'm here today to present a formal request to uphold the revocation of the business tax receipt issued on March 3rd, 2025 for 8-Ball Cafeteria located at 201 West 22nd Street. This establishment, which was licensed as operating as a restaurant, has violated multiple city ordinances and state laws by functioning as an unpermitted nightclub. Code Section 666B1E, serving alcohol without food, Section 1869, illegal gambling, multiple code violations, Section 1051, Section 98-1371, and Section 666B1K, employing B-girls, which can lead to prostitution, violating state laws, which police will expand further on. On February 28th, I joined multiple city departments and state agencies to inspect the business location. It promoted itself as lingerie night, including a DJ, nightclub lighting, a pool table tournament, and maquinitas with dollar signs next to it until 1 a.m., creating a significant public nuisance and posing risks to the community. I believe this business is a danger to the city's public health, safety, and welfare. Therefore, the city issued a notice of revocation to the business owner. We also impounded the machines, and we impounded a log for gambling. Given the disregard for regulatory requirements, allowing it to continue to operate under false pretense undermines the integrity of our licensing process and sets a dangerous precedent for other businesses in our community. Thank you.
Thank you. If I may, really quickly, through the chair. So they had a business license in 2019 under La Vino Tinto, and now they changed it? Did they already have a license?
I don't know what you're looking at. No, they have a BTR that was processed in 2021. So you might be looking at an older application because when we submit evidence, we submit the whole log. So I think it's that orange one that's in the front.
Yeah, that's current, but then if you go back like 4 pages, it says September 18 of 2019, they operated as La Vino Tinto Sports Restaurant.
It
So
could have
this is
been,
new
but
license under the same
this
name?
was issued in 2021. So they did a transfer of ownership at that time.
Okay.
So currently they operate as 8 Ball Cafeteria LLC.
Did that previous license had any violations? Is that why they had to change the name?
We did not have any violation. No, not that I'm aware of, but we did have police reports in 2022 for similar issues.
But it's under the same ownership since
Correct.
2019,
No, since 2021.
2021. Okay. It goes all the way back.
Yes, when we submit the licensing file, we send all the documents and all the applications for the history of the license.
Okay.
Madam President, if I might. Alex, what's the general, I'm sorry, you may have
Yes, sir.
restated it. What's the general violation of the license?
The general violation is that they're operating outside the bounds of how they're allowed to operate.
All right, and this is product of a police investigation?
Yes, sir.
Which is the tip of the spear, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so as Rafael asked earlier, is the license owner here?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so you're gonna lay out your entire case?
Yes, sir.
All right, so just because I mean, I think all the documents are here, right?
Sure. So then next we'll have Marlon Espinosa from Police Department, Lieutenant Espinosa come up.
And again, anybody can ask the witnesses questions. And, the violations involve the B-girls, involve the hours of serving liquor, I believe involve serving liquor without the accompanying required food. But, that's going to be shown to you here by, all right? That's pretty much it.
Good evening, Council. Good evening, Council President, Mayor. This investigation was brought to us early February by the Department of Alcohol, Beverage, and Tobacco State Agency, one agency that we collaborate. They received information of what they call B-girls. If you're not familiar what a B-girl is, Florida State statute says 562-131 says that you cannot solicit drinks from someone who's visiting the establishment. These girls solicit drinks and they get paid by the establishment for as many drinks as they request or as the patron buys for these girls. That's what we call B-girls. So they received information that they were doing B-girl operations within. After undercover operations, they verified these B-girls operations that were happening. And on February 28th at 10 p.m., we entered the establishment. The establishment was clearly being ran as a club and not a restaurant. There was no food on the tables. There was no food in a stove. There was frozen chicken nuggets and fries in a freezer. The coolers were filled with beer. The girls were in lingerie, as Ms. Gruich said. They were having a lingerie night, and there was a billiard game going on at the same time, a competition. As we entered, we were able to separate the girls from the patrons. We established that the patrons that had nothing to do with it, we let them go. Human trafficking task force entered with us. So this was a collaboration between ABT, Human Trafficking Task Force, FHP, FDLE, and the city of Hialeah. When Human Trafficking Task Force entered, they interviewed all the girls. There was information received that they were being hired through a Facebook page and managed. This unfortunately opens the doors for the exploitation of immigrant women who may not be able to find a job because they are being paid under the table, and this is what's opening the door for that. So there were several females that were identified as illegal immigrants by the Human Trafficking Task Force, and they're currently working with them at this point. I cannot speak on behalf of that investigation and what's going on because we're not part of that investigation. But like I said, being ran like a club, walls are all blacked out. We tried hitting the light switches. There's no lights. It's all flashing disco lights, loud DJ, and no food being served, only alcohol.
Anyone have any questions? Because I think I've heard
Through the
a
chair,
lot. You're recognized.
if the councilwoman is done. No? Are you done, man? Yeah. Typical, that's been going on here in Hialeah forever. They're bars fronting as restaurants. And then what the lieutenant meant when he goes is cold food. A restaurant's supposed to have hot food available. They got fake food just in case they get raided. And it's a horrible job because you could tell they're not cooking. There's no food on the stove being cooked. There's no food being served. There's only alcohol. And then there's the bar girls who are constantly hustling. They're hustling the customers so they can buy drinks. And that's the way they make money for themselves
Correct.
and for the for the business. So what I was going to say, we used to have these businesses go on years and years ago, forever in Hialeah, and we used to have to wait till they had 100 violations, and then maybe they'd get a license revocation. This is darn good. We don't have to wait till it becomes it has been a nuisance. We've waited along, but I'm glad we're seeing this happen without having to have 100 incidents of us wasting our resources to establish what we already know. This is an illegal business operating illegally. This is nothing new. They're not fooling us, and they got caught. They got everything from illegal gambling to soliciting for drinks to being a bar when they're not supposed to be a bar. So I commend this effort, and I'm all for it. I know we have to wait until the end of the hearing. Thank you.
Now you'll hear from Sergeant Chris Perez from the Hialeah Police Department.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, Council. Christopher Perez, Hialeah Police Department, 5555 East State Avenue. I don't want to, my testimony is pretty much going to match Lieutenant Espinosa. I don't want to take up too much of your time with that. I'm just going to do a couple points that I noticed when we did this multi-agency task force. And as we were arriving to the scene, I was one of the first cars to pull up. So as soon as we get out, you notice that they did have 2 security guards employed, all dressed in black clothing on the outside of the business. And they began making calls and whistles and everything, kind of like, hey, you know, police are showing up, giving everybody inside a heads up of what's about to go into their doors. Couple things we noticed, again, low lighting. It was advertised as a lingerie night, so you had women in less clothing that will be normal for your patrons in the bar. A lot of buckets of beer. So the bucket of beer specials, you know, you had the buckets on different tables. I didn't see any food. Very low lighting, like they said, strobe lights, consistent with like nightclub, discotheque atmosphere. I think from my understanding, there was a total of, I think, 2 arrests that were affected. We also discovered another patron that have a warrant. So to my knowledge, I think that brought it up to about 3 arrests that were made that night. And the gaming machines that were seized on scene was a result that once we were notified that they did find a ledger consistent detailing payments from the winnings from the gaming machines that were paid out to customers. So all of that was going on.
Okay. And how did you guys get to this point?
As far as Hialeah Police, we were asked to assist with the multi-agency task force. So that like I said, maybe the lieutenant or somebody wants to brush up on that.
Sorry. As part of being overseeing the special investigation section, ABT reached out to the department. They told us about these operations that they were taking place. They said that they had found this bar to be in violation. They went undercover capacity. In an undercover capacity, they went and they worked the bar. This was ABT. They notified us of what was going on, and we joined in collaboration with them to make sure that this was going to be addressed in our city.
Okay. So they're going to keep doing it, right?
Yes, they are.
Perfect.
Yes.
Good.
Yes.
Very happy to hear that.
And I did he did mention a little bit about the ledger. ABT found two different ledgers. We found a ledger with the names of the girls with how many beers they have sold that day, consistent with them being paid for their efforts as B girls. And then the second ledger that they found was for the machines, how much winnings the machines had, how much they paid out on those winnings.
Okay. Thank you.
Madam Chair, if I may, Officer, I just want to ask something. The city doesn't have those ledgers, does it?
No.
But
We have the ledger for the gambling machines. We don't have the ledger for the B girls. That's a ABT investigation that they took.
The city has the gambling machine ledger.
Correct. Correct.
And did you or the other officer witness the other ledger?
Yes,
with
I
it?
did. I did.
You saw it?
Yes, I did. I physically saw it.
And you know the contents are what you said?
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay.
And lastly, we will have Caleb Rodriguez from the Code Enforcement Department come up and describe the code enforcement violations he saw when he entered the premises. I'd also like to state that the attorney, I've spoken with the attorney on the other side, and he would like to wait until all the witnesses have gone to cross-examine if he'd like.
Good evening, council members. Pretty easy going up after all the other departments. Caleb Rodriguez, City of Hialeah, as was stated, code enforcement. Against the property, the code department currently has 4 cases levied, but 2 of them pertaining to the activities and the situation that the code team found when they entered the premises. One of them is building work done without a permit. This is pretty evident. We've gone back, we checked our files in the city, and we've observed that there's electrical, mechanical work, and plumbing work, including violations in the kitchen, bathroom areas, electrical work throughout the interior and the exterior of the business. There's been awnings, there's been LED signs, as you can see in some of the pictures that have been installed, for which our department in the City of Hialeah building has no permits. These are violations that span the entire length of the 201 portion of the property. And then the second case that we have against this situation is a permitted use violation. And that's in the form of outdoor seating area that has been created. I myself, I'm a Hialeah resident. I've passed by on several occasions while on work duties by the property, and the business has created an outdoor seating area, which is oftentimes used by these girls to sit outside in clothing that's suggestive, whether it be promoting the business or not. That's not what I'm here for, but it is an area that is outside of the establishment. And as per city ordinance, any activity, any furniture, any area that's created for said business has to be within the enclosed walls. So those are the 2 cases that are applying to this section of the property.
Thank you.
And finally, I'd just like to go through a couple pictures. Maria, if you want to go through a couple of the pictures. These are the code enforcement pictures. And then Maria, we can go back to the first set and show. So those are the ledgers of the gaming machines. And then finally, I'd like to show a clip from their public Instagram page promoting. Doesn't play. So they have, it's not, the video is not working apparently, but their public Instagram page shows that it's clearly not operating as just a restaurant. They're clearly operating as more than a restaurant, which is outside what they're allowed to do under their BTR. So I had one more question for Lieutenant Espinoza. Mr. Espinoza, do you believe this to be a serious danger to the public health, safety, or welfare for the city of Hialeah?
Yes, absolutely.
Sergeant Perez, same question.
Yes, I do.
And Caleb, based on your code enforcement experience, do you believe that to be the case?
Due to the electrical work, yes.
Thank you. So we will have any questions that you like answered. If there are none for the city at this time, I'll allow the BTR holder to present his case.
I just have a technical question through the chair, if I may. These records were all part of the agenda and given to the council members,
Yes, sir.
and the city is moving them into evidence for this matter.
Yes, sir.
Correct? Okay.
Good evening. My name is Michael Wolf. I'm an attorney from Fort Lauderdale. My address is 805 Southeast 3rd Avenue, Unit 1011, Fort Lauderdale 33316. If you would allow me just a little bit of background. First of all, why are we here? We're here on an emergency revocation of a business license. And you can't lose sight of the fact that there are different processes for revocation of a BTR. That's different than an emergency revocation that we're here on, where there's only been 5 days notice. And as was stated, relies on the situation being a danger, an imminent danger to the safety, health, and welfare of the community. The establishment is being operated by my client, who is actually not the name of the BTR holder. That is her estranged husband, who has fled the country pursuant to some crimes that he committed that he was trying to evade, nothing having to do with the situation here. So what I am asking the council to do is to find that this does not, an impermissible use of premises for purposes not allowed under the BTR does not in and of itself constitute an imminent danger to the health, safety, or welfare of the community. And Councilman Zogby, I understand what your argument is. It's time we get rid of this. And you may be correct. However, that doesn't mean that the correct process does not have to be used. So my presentation here is to the fact that this is not a situation that is an imminent danger. I don't think you've heard anything other than a conclusory testimony from the witnesses that what about this is an imminent danger to health, safety, or welfare of the community, a business operating outside even if it's true, outside the permitted uses under the BTR that was done. I did investigate as much as I could today the possibility of a resolution that did not include this emergency revocation. We weren't able to really get anywhere with that, and that's why we were here. These issues with BTRs are very oftentimes resolved short of the death penalty, so to speak. And I believe that this is, and that you will find that this is the situation here. So with that background, I would like to ask a few questions of the witnesses, if I may. Ms.
The due process and the code provides for the ability of the respondent to ask questions. So the answer is yes.
Okay. So am I correct that this is an emergency revocation based on the threat to the health, safety, and welfare of the community?
Yes.
Okay, and what about the operation is a threat to the health of the community?
Sir, I believe, I don't know if you're aware, but I was at the location with the other officers and the other agencies that were involved. And we walked in, right when police allowed us to walk in. I believe this is an issue because not only are you bringing in girls as B-girls, but this can lead to human trafficking and prostitution. And not only that, but you have people who are drinking, there's illegal gambling going on, and they're leaving there and getting in their vehicles and driving away. So,
Well,
I'm sorry.
Okay.
So the business tax receipt is for a restaurant and they're doing everything but a restaurant.
Okay, wait.
I'm not going.
Okay. You didn't find, or none of your officers found any evidence of human trafficking, correct?
That investigation is done by an outside agency.
Right. There was no evidence of any prostitution going on there, was there?
There was, well, like I said, that was involving another agency, but the girls that were arrested, it was not exactly for prostitution, it was for other services.
Okay, so you're just assuming that these things could lead to those illegal activities without actually finding that these activities occurred, correct?
Well, like I said, I cited code section 666K, where actually restaurant operators shall not employ B girls. And in the ordinance, it continues to say that the B girls and hostess as companions to male customers and otherwise to entice, encourage, or lure male customers to purchase multiple drinks by sitting at the table or other seating areas with male customers with conversation, touching, sexual innuendos, or other promises of sexual favors or attention.
Okay, but there was no evidence that that occurred, correct?
That investigation again was conducted by an outside agency.
Okay, so I'm correct in saying that no evidence of that was found during your investigation.
I believe there was arrests made by other agencies. However, I am not fully aware of the situation as Lieutenant is the one who was able to speak to them
Okay,
in that situation.
all right. You mentioned illegal gambling, and
Correct.
that gambling is the machines that they had in the place, correct?
Yes, we found a log.
Okay, and you have approximately 1,000 to 1,500 of those machines in your city, correct?
I'm not sure, sir.
All right, well, every September, the vendors of those machines or the owners of those machines come in and they have to renew their certificates from the city for each
Correct.
machine. Okay. And you have an approximation of how many applications like that you get every September or so?
I would have to look, sir.
Okay. And those machines are used throughout the city, and those are the same types of machines that we had here, correct?
They're amusement type 2 machines for entertainment, so they're not for gambling. And actually, there's a sign that needs to be posted on the machine that they're not for gambling.
All right,
They're for
and,
entertainment.
okay. Other than these logs that you're referring to, which you don't have any direct knowledge of what they were for, other than that, was there any evidence that illegal gambling took place there?
We impounded a logbook for the winnings on the machines. There's also a flyer presented in, I'm not sure if they put it up on the screen, that stated maquinitas, and there was dollar signs next to it, like little emoji bags of dollar signs next to the maquinitas.
none of your officers that investigated actually tried to gamble and win money or pay money to win money?
I'm not sure, sir.
All right, so the three things that you were concerned about, prostitution, human trafficking, illegal gambling, there was no direct evidence of any of those three things,
I can't speak for outside agents' investigations.
okay? The misuse of the COP2 alcohol license, that's an ABT issue, correct?
They have a 2 COP, which means they can serve beer and wine. However, the city ordinance states that they cannot sell it without food.
Okay, does that in and of itself constitute a threat to the health, safety, or welfare of the community?
It is not being operated as a restaurant, which is what it's licensed for. So this revocation license is for the restaurant.
But again, this emergency revocation is based on your ordinance 86-56, and that requires an imminent danger to the health, safety, or welfare of the community. What about any of this impacts that? I mean, what is it?
So there's multiple ordinances that are being violated. It's not just one section.
Okay, but you're not answering the question. What is the direct threat to the health, safety, or welfare of the community?
I already stated that in my opening statement.
Well,
sir.
I
saying that-
think she's saying that you've already asked and she's already answered that question.
I presented that in the beginning of the presentation.
Well, just so I could get clarity on that, your statement that it's a threat, a danger to.
So they're in violation of multiple city ordinances and state laws. Section 666B1E, serving alcohol without food, section 1869, illegal gambling, multiple code violations such as 105.1, 98-1371, section 666B1K, employing B-girls, which can lead to prostitution, it's violating state laws.
No, I understand that you're alleging that there was a violation of the city ordinances, but that doesn't necessarily or directly correspond to being an imminent danger or threat to the health, safety, or welfare of the community.
I believe it does because they're operating under false pretense.
All right, there is another process where they could challenge that other than with this 5-day notice and emergency revocation. There is another process by which they can challenge the revocation, correct?
But the witness may answer the question if she knows. If she doesn't understand it, she can ask for it to be rephrased.
When you, just in general, when you find that an establishment is operating outside the bounds of what their BTR is for, is that something that you automatically state is an imminent danger to the community?
We have, so if you're referred to the informal hearing process, we do have that process, but this case has already been, we have police reports from 2022. So we don't, this is like a second time it happens with the police department.
Well, you saying there was a previous investigation and incident just like this?
Yes, sir.
Okay, do you have any of that paperwork?
Oops, sorry. Report 2022. So I have a report, and I believe council has it as well. From July 9th, 2022. So it says the Hialeah Police Department officers were dispatched at 201 West 22nd Street in reference to disturbance at A-Bell Cafeteria at 1:37 a.m. It was observed the business open, full of patrons, activities, drinking. A bar check was conducted. So here we have business was found in violation of serving alcoholic beverages without food. The kitchen was clean and no food had been cooked and equipment unused. The business was also in violation of license approved business hours, which they're allowed to operate from 8 a.m. to 1, 8 a.m. to 1 a.m. The business was closed for the evening with the assistance of the owner, and crime scene submitted evidence.
And pursuant to that report, was there an emergency revocation of the business license?
No, sir.
Okay. So,
But I also want to point out that the business owner does sign an affidavit that is notarized, acknowledging all the city ordinances and that they will abide by them. It's in their application process, which council, I believe, has it too as well.
okay. So that situation must have been different than this one, because in that one, nothing like this emergency revocation was done, correct?
So that was the first time it happened? So there was a case for the first time, however, this is the second time, so I'm not sure what you're.
In 2022, were they cited with code violations?
They were cited, they were, I believe, presented with an informal. They had an informal hearing in 2022.
All right, and they
Where
were,
we discuss the ordinance and how they have to stay in compliance, like we do with everybody else.
all right. But they were not sanctioned at that time for this misconduct that you're alleging?
I would have to look at the informal hearing notice.
Now, so we're 3 years later. We have a situation where the actual BTR owner is off in some other country somewhere. It's being run by the estranged wife who's in divorce proceedings, where the ownership of the business is in issue. Why wouldn't an informal process prior to a revocation take place in this case?
Because they're repeat violators. Also, when you refer to an issue with ownership, who do you have on record that's the owner?
The paperwork says that Yasser is the BTR holder.
And who do you say is the owner?
Well, the owner is Miss. She's here. I can bring her up if you want to. The estranged wife. The estranged wife. Sure, Celia. She's on your. Grecia Espinosa.
Just for the record, she is the owner on Sunbiz as well. So she is aware of the situation. Also want to state that while I was at the location, I met her daughter and I guess her daughter's couple, who were at the location at the time that we walked into it.
Okay, thank you. Oh, wait,
When the witness comes up again, just for the record, give your name and your title again before you're asked the questions, okay?
Martin Espinosa, Lieutenant, the Hialeah Police Department.
Right. The establishment is in a warehouse zone, is it not?
That is correct.
Okay. There's no residential communities anywhere near this particular establishment, correct?
There is a residential community.
Within, but not nearby, it's in a warehouse.
Less than a quarter mile away.
I'm a quarter mile away.
Less than.
Right. Have there been any complaints from that community as to this establishment?
I am not aware of any.
Has your department been called out to the establishment to investigate any particular criminal activity?
Yes, we have.
Other than this particular one?
Yes.
Okay. And when was that?
I don't have that on record.
Do you recall what the criminal activity that was investigated was?
I can have Sergeant Chris Perez, who responded to those in the past, speak on that, but I did not respond to any of those.
So you were the one that actually went into the establishment?
Along with 50 other law enforcement officers,
ABT,
ABT, Homeland Security, Human Trafficking Task Force, FDLE, FHP.
but nothing other than the issues with ABT, the issues with Homeland Security, and what have you. There was nothing that was like human trafficking. There wasn't any evidence of that, correct?
There was some evidence of human trafficking, and Human Trafficking Task Force is investigating and following up with those females that spoke during the investigation. I cannot speak on behalf of them and on what is going on in that investigation. I can tell you that there was a gentleman that was arrested with an open arrest warrant, and that the daughter and the manager, which is her boyfriend, were also arrested on that day.
All right, but their arrests or charges didn't have anything to do with human trafficking, did it?
No.
Didn't have anything to do with prostitution, did it?
No.
Okay.
Only with it was only bar girl activity, which was solicitation of alcoholic beverage, which is a state violation.
Do you know if there was any criminal activity complaints called in any volume at all in the last few years at the establishment?
No, but the evidence of it being there being illegal gambling and B-girl is criminal activity.
All right, the illegal gambling, the machines that were there were confiscated, correct?
That is correct.
Okay, and those are the same machines, probably there's 1,000 to 1,500 of them in your city, correct?
Yes.
Okay. And have any of those other establishments been brought to task for illegal gambling?
They have in the past, yes.
Anything recently?
8 Ball.
I'm sorry?
The 8 Ball establishment.
Other than that?
Yes, there was a smoke shop about a month ago that was actually had their machines confiscated as well.
And that's all you know of?
That I have been involved in, yes.
All right, thanks.
You're welcome.
For the record.
Go ahead.
Christopher Perez, Sergeant with Hialeah Police Department.
All right, and what was your involvement in this investigation?
We were requested to assist for police presence with the multi-agency task force for this night.
Okay. Were you one of the undercover officers that did the investigation?
No, I was not.
And did you find any evidence of human trafficking, prostitution, or specific evidence of people actually gambling?
Sorry. No, I was not involved in that investigation.
This establishment is in a warehouse district, correct?
Yeah, it appears predominantly a warehouse on that block.
Was there any complaints that you know of from any neighboring residential community?
No, I wouldn't. I didn't receive any complaint.
All right, thank you. Thank you very much. Give me 1 second. I'm not gonna, I don't have a need to put on any testimony, but I would just like to reiterate that again, and at the risk of being somewhat repetitive, you've now heard that there was no specific finding of criminal activity going on there. Nobody actually gambled. They are presuming they're presuming what those logbooks are. They're presuming that there's these other seriously nefarious issues going on there, which there also doesn't seem to be any evidence of. And I would suggest to the council that the other processes for sanctioning misconduct pursuant to what they're allowed to do under the BTR should be subject to a different process than an emergency revocation as such. We don't have any specific evidence of what danger there is to the community. There is violations of the ordinances, and we can even stipulate to those, but that does not in and of itself constitute an imminent danger to the health, safety, or welfare of the community. They have been in business since 2021, almost 4 years. And even though apparently there was something previous 3 years ago, obviously that didn't amount to anything that would have constituted a basis for an emergency revocation. And so what I would ask the council for is not to approve this emergency revocation, but have this go through the appropriate process. Other resolutions can be made. Certainly, they can be given a chance to correct the violations. We're only here on a 5-day notice, and so they have not, and they were closed right on the spot. So they haven't even had an opportunity to resolve the corrections. And based on the fact that we now have the Mrs., the estranged wife of the BTR holder, I think it would be fair and equitable that we be allowed to follow that process, be sanctioned for whatever is appropriate, possibly to even resolve it and give them a chance to correct the violations and comply with what it is that they need to do. Yes, they're subject to ABT and their regulations, and they're probably going to get an administrative complaint and sanctions from them. But other than that, there would not, in my opinion, be any reason to necessarily just absolutely put them out of business without giving an opportunity to correct the issues that we have. And I would just bottom line it with, again, I don't believe that a presumption of imminent danger to the health, safety, or welfare of the community arises as a result of violation of ordinances, even if we were to stipulate that there were violations of the ordinances. So I thank you for your attention and appreciate the opportunity to speak to you.
Thank you.
Through the chair.
You're recognized.
Oh, were you gonna?
I was going to finish up.
Yeah, no, just again, because I know the council doesn't hear these with any kind of regularity. Defense seemed to make a closing argument. The city's also entitled to make a closing argument if it wishes. And then the council will deliberate whether it wants to uphold the revocation based on the evidence presented and legal evidence presented by the city and legal arguments made by respective counsel, and or take other actions such as reversing it, but based on the violations that were before you and the evidence in the record.
So I just want to quickly close. Opposing counsel I don't think he disagrees that there is a violation of our ordinance going on here. I think what his argument is that this is not an emergency. Give us more time. Give us another chance. The fact is that back in 2022, this had already happened, and they had another chance, and they operated just as they had before. This time, only worse. Okay. What he says is not an emergency was enough of an emergency for 4 outside agencies, some being federal agencies, to get in touch with the city of Hialeah to conduct this operation. So it was emergent enough for Homeland Security, for Florida Division of Alcohol and Tobacco, and for Florida Department of Law Enforcement and Florida Highway Patrol to have this done immediately. To say that illegal gambling and illegal consumption of alcohol is not an emergency is misguided. It invites other criminal activity. It invites somebody getting into their car when alcohol is not being served with food, with the possibility of a patron getting drunk and getting into his car intoxicated and killing somebody else. So the city disagrees that this is not an emergency. They are operating as a nightclub. They are not operating as a restaurant. Nightclubs and restaurants have completely different security regulations. If you operate as a nightclub, you should have major security in place that a restaurant would not have, that they don't have. This operation is not prepared if something does happen as a nightclub would be, and that's how they're operating. So based on that, we would ask that the city council affirm their city staff's recommendation, their occupational license director's recommendation to revoke this BTR, and their police department's recommendation to revoke this BTR. You heard your city staff say that they believe that this is a danger to public health, safety, and welfare. And we ask that you find that as well, and we would ask that you uphold their revocation. And I can answer any questions.
Thank you. I just want to say real quick before you speak, Councilman. I don't like the idea of closing anybody's business down. But when it comes to something like this, as many as you guys bring before me, at least me, I don't know if I speak for everyone up here, I will agree with the revocation because I think it's a very big problem. And if you're going to have a company and you're going to have it open, abide by the rules. Go by code. Do what you're supposed to do. I do think that it's a big problem and I don't like it. I don't like what's going on there. You're recognized, Councilman.
Thank you, madam. That was a very nice dance in semantics that the opposing counsel tried to pull. We understand. There's been no convictions, no crime. This place is unique. We live here. We know. You've been hired as a hired gun. This place is Mardi Gras on the weekends. Studio 54 did not have the crowds that this place has on the outside and the noise. It looked like Las Vegas. This place, we've been so patient. This place has been operating as a club from day one, not as a restaurant. For that alone, they should have their BTR, their license revoked. On top of that, I consider an immediate hazard to public safety. A bunch of unpermitted work, especially electrical work, like our inspector Caleb Rodriguez said. A place that when the officers arrived was full of people. They tried turning on lights, nothing turned on. The bouncers, the security were more occupied with trying to conceal whatever assumed illegal activities were going on by the time we got to the location. They're not fooling anybody. This place is acting completely outside of the law just by existing the way they exist, operating as a club. The things that are going on in there nobody's been convicted. It's yet to be proven, but we know what's going on. But just the fact that they're operating outside of their agreed type of business that they have purchased a license for is enough to close them down. The fact that I cannot see us having this business open one more night because I believe it is a fire hazard, an imminent fire hazard. Could you imagine a cave like this full of people? If there's an electrical fire, where are they all going to go? No, this place needs to be closed, and because it is an immediate threat to the community, and it is a nuisance. That's what I have to say. So I'm all for immediate revocation. Thank you, madam.
Yes. Anyone else on the council? Okay, so we motion this.
Again, I think to me, it's the council's call, but for example, in plain English, when you hear a hearing like this, the kinds of actions that you can take are based on the evidence and the record presented before the council. For example, either A, I move to affirm the revocation for a violation of the code sections alleged and uphold it, or conversely, based on the evidence and the record before us, I move to rescind or revoke the revocation, and it's A or B. It's sort of like either I'm affirming the
Yes.
decision or I'm reversing the decision based on what you've heard this evening. An order has to be prepared either way, a simple order, and there is a right to appeal from that order if a party that has standing or is affected wishes to within 30 days from the date of the order.
Okay, so then I guess we have a motion by Councilmember Zogby.
Yeah, I affirm the
agreeing with
revocation.
Okay, do we have a second?
I second it.
Have a second by Councilmember Perez.
I have a motion by Mr. Zogby affirming the
Yes.
revocation. Ms. Garcia Robles?
Yes.
Ms. Perez? Mr. Dundidor?
Yes.
Mr. Zogby?
Yes.
Mr. Junco?
Yes.
Ms. De La Vega? Motion carries. The license is revoked.
Okay.
Thank you all for your participation.
Moving on to unfinished business. And new business. Okay, moving on to zoning.
Will all those persons who will be testifying on an item, please stand and raise your right hand.
Las personas que quisieran prestar sus opiniones delante de esta junta, por favor, pónganse de pie y alcen la mano derecha.
Do you swear or affirm that the evidence you're about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? So help you God. If so, say I do.
¿Usted jura o afirma que el testimonio que va a dar será la verdad, toda la verdad y únicamente la verdad y que Dios sea su testigo? Por favor, diga que sí si la respuesta es afirmativa.
Let the record reflect that all have responded in the affirmative.
En el archivo público constará que todos han respondido afirmativamente.
Okay. Land use and amendments.
Second reading and public hearing of proposed ordinance amending the future land use map from low-density residential and commercial to transit-oriented development district. Properties located at 2590 East Line Avenue, 851 East 25th Street, 865 East 25th Street, 879 East 25th Street, 899 East 25th Street, 820 East 26th Street, 824 East 26th Street, 830 East 26th Street, 838 East 26th Street, 846 East 26th Street, 854 East 26th Street, 860 East 26th Street, 866 East 28th Street, 874 East 26th Street, 880 East 26th Street, and 890 East 26th Street. Hialeah zones R1, one family district, C1, restricted retail commercial district, and C2, liberal retail commercial district, and legally described in Exhibit A, repealing all ordinances or parts of ordinances in conflict herewith, providing penalties for violation hereof, providing for a severability clause, and providing for an effective date.
Okay, good evening. This item is on second reading. It's open for the public. No one?
Through the
Pleasure of
chair.
board. Yes, you're recognized.
Madam Clerk, can you reread the item? No, don't reread the item. Motion. Of course they need a motion on this. This is a beautiful project.
Motion by Zogby, second by Junco.
Mr. Dundidor,
Yes.
Mr. Zogby,
Yes.
Mr. Junco,
Yes.
Ms. De La Vega,
Yes.
Ms. Garcia Robles.
Yes.
Ms. Perez.
Yes.
Motion carries. The item is approved.
Okay, zoning items, item A.
Second reading and public hearing of proposed ordinance approving the closure, vacation, and abandonment of the right-of-way portion for public use of land traversing on East 27th Street, East east of 11th Street, 11th Avenue, and west of railroad tracks as depicted and legally described in Exhibit A, repealing all ordinances and parts of ordinances in conflict herewith, providing penalties for violation hereof, providing for a severability clause, and providing for an effective date.
Okay, this item is also on second reading. It's open for the public. If no one, pleasure of the board.
Motion. Second.
Motion by Zogby, second by Tundidor.
Mr. Tumidor?
Yes.
Mr. Zogby?
Yes.
Mr. Junco?
Yes.
Ms. De La Vega?
Yes.
Ms. Garcia Rovez?
Yes.
Ms. Perez?
Yes.
Motion carries. The item is approved.
Thank you.
Item B.
Second reading and public hearing of proposed ordinance rezoning properties from R1, one family district, and R2, 1 and 2 family residential district to R33, multiple family district, granting a special use permit to allow the expansion of a neighborhood business district overlay in relation to a proposed development including 40 residential units pursuant to Hialeah Code of Ordinance, Section 98-161. A variance permit to allow 28 units, 70% with a total area of less than 700 square feet, where 700 square feet is the minimum required, and only 25% of the residential units may have a minimum area of 500 square feet, to allow a waiver of the building mass and building frontage development standards as set forth in the Hialeah Code of Ordinance, Section 98-1630.3 subsection C and subsection D. Allow a frontage setback of 5 feet where 10 feet built line are required. Allow a rear setback of 5 feet where 15 feet are required. Allow 42 parking spaces where 50 parking spaces are required. Allow 14.7% pervious area where 30% is a minimum required. All in contrast to Hialeah Code of Ordinance, Section 98-1607.3 subsection I, 98-1630.3 subsection E1, 98-1630.3 subsection E2, 98-2189 subsection 16A, and the Hialeah Landscape Manual dated December 12, 2022, and allow a partial waiver of minimum landscape requirements through landscape mitigation pursuant to Hialeah Code of Ordinance, Section 98-2235. Properties located at 4935 East 8th Avenue and 4955 East 8th Avenue. Hialeah zoned R1, one family district, and R2, 1 and 2 family residential district, and legally described herein. Repealing all ordinances or parts of ordinances in conflict herewith, providing penalties for violation hereof, providing for a severability clause, and providing for an effective date.
Wow. Okay, this item is also on second reading. It's open for the public. If no one, pleasure of the board.
Motion.
Motion by Zogby,
Second.
second by Junco.
Mr. Zogby?
Yes.
Mr. Junco?
Yes.
Ms. De La Vega?
Yes.
Ms. Garcia Rovez?
Yes.
Ms. Perez?
No.
Mr. Tumidor?
Yes.
Motion carries. The item is approved.
Okay, item C.
Second reading and public hearing of proposed ordinance rezoning property from R1, one family district, C1 restricted retail commercial district, and C2 liberal retail commercial district to transit-oriented development district. Properties located at 2590 East 9th Avenue, 851 East 25th Street, 865 East 25th Street, 879 East 25th Street, 899 East 25th Street, 820 East 26th Street, 824 East 26th Street, 830 East 26th Street, 838 East 26th Street, 846 East 26th Street, 854 East 26th Street, 860 East 26th Street, 866 East 26th Street, 874 East 26th Street, 880 East 26th Street, and 890 East 26th Street. Hialeah zoned R1, one family district, C1 restricted retail commercial district, and C2 liberal retail commercial district, and legally described in Exhibit A, repealing all ordinances or parts of ordinances in conflict herewith, providing penalties for violation hereof, providing for a severability clause, and providing for an effective date.
Okay, this item is also on second reading, open for the public. If no one, pleasure of the board.
Motion.
Motion by Zogby. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second by Junco.
Mr. Junco?
Yes.
Ms. De La Vega?
Yes.
Ms. Garcia Rovez?
Yes.
Ms. Perez?
Yes.
Mr. Tumidor?
Yes.
Mr. Zogby?
Yes.
Motion carries. The item is approved.
Okay, item D.
Second reading and public hearing of proposed ordinance rezoning properties from R3 multiple family district to R33 multiple family district. Is that correct? Multiple family district, granting a special use permit to allow the expansion of the neighborhood business district overlay in relation to a proposed development including 176 residential units pursuant to Hialeah Code of Ordinance Section 98-161, a variance permit to allow 80 units, 45%, with a total area of less than 700 square feet, where 700 square feet is a minimum required, and only 25% of residential units may have a minimum of 500 square feet. Allow a waiver of the building mass and building frontage development standards. Allow a rear setback of 12.2 where 15 feet are required. Allow 12.2% pervious area where 30% is a minimum required. All in contrast to Hialeah Code of Ordinance Section 98-1607.3 subsection I, 98-1630.3 subsection E2, and the Hialeah Landscape Manual dated December 12, 2022, and allow partial waiver of minimum landscape requirements through landscape mitigation pursuant to Hialeah Code of Ordinance Section 98-2235. Properties located at 1155 West 24th Street, 1165 West 24th Street, 1175 West 24th Street, 1150 West 25th Street, 1160 West 25th Street, 1170 and 2495 West 12th Avenue. Hialeah zoned R3 multiple family district and legally described herein. Repealing all ordinances or parts of ordinances in conflict herewith, providing penalties for violation hereof, providing for a severability clause, and providing for an effective date.
Okay, this item's on second reading. It's open for the public. If no one, pleasure of the board.
What's the name of this project again?
Mr. Council Member, it's Sienna Park.
Okay, motion.
Motion by Councilmember Zogby, second by Tundilan.
Ms. De La Vega?
Yes.
Ms. Garcia Robles?
Yes.
Ms. Perez?
No.
Mr. Tunidol?
Yes.
Mr. Zogby?
Yes.
Mr. Junco?
Yes.
Motion carries. The item is approved.
Okay, moving on to item E.
Second reading and public hearing of proposed ordinance rezoning properties from RO Residential Office District to C2 Liberal Retail Commercial District, granting a special use permit pursuant to Hialeah Code of Ordinance Section 98-161 to allow the expansion of the neighborhood business district overlay in relation to a proposed development including 78 residential units and approximately 6,854 square feet of a commercial space, and allow 121 parking spaces where 153 parking spaces are required. In contrast to Hialeah Code of Ordinance Section 98-2189, subsection 16B. Properties located at 1420 West 68th Street, 1460 West 68th Street, and 1480 West 68th Street. Hialeah zoned RO Residential Office District and C2 Liberal Retail Commercial District, and legally described herein. Repealing all ordinances or parts of ordinances in conflict herewith, providing penalties for violation hereof, providing for a severability clause, and providing for an effective date.
Okay, this item is also open for the public. It's on second reading. If no one, pleasure of the board.
Motion.
Motion by Tundidor. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second by Zogby.
Ms. Garcia Robles?
Yes.
Ms. Perez?
No.
Mr. Tunidon?
Yes.
Mr. Zogby?
Yes.
Mr. Junco?
Yes.
Ms. De La Vega?
Yes.
Motion carries. The item is approved.
Thank you.
Okay, item F.
Second reading and public hearing of proposed ordinance granting a variance permit to allow 17 parking spaces where 32 parking spaces are required. Allow all parking spaces to back out into the right of way where backing out into the right of way is only permitted in low density residential properties. All in contrast to Hialeah Code of Ordinance sections 98-2189 subsection 2 and 98-2190, and releasing the existing declaration of covenants recorded in official records book 30444, page 2955, and the amended declaration of restricted covenants recorded in official records book 32418, page 1253. of the public records of Miami-Dade County, Florida. Property located at 1395 East 11th Avenue, Hialeah, zoned M1 Industrial District, repealing all ordinances or parts of ordinances in conflict herewith, providing penalties for violation hereof, providing for a severability clause, and providing for an effective date.
Okay, this item's on second reading. It's open for the public. Well, no one, pleasure of the board. Motion,
Through the
Motion.
chair.
you're recognized.
Maritza, to avoid, how are you?
Hey there.
To save me the trouble of having to go into the backups. Is another business identified here to replace them? I think I asked you last time, the existing, or are they just changing the ordinance for a future business?
So we represent Maritza Haro, office at 200 South Biscayne Boulevard. I want to keep the attorney happy. So we represent the new owner, and they do have a new business lined up, like a future tenant, and that's the reason why we're coming before you with the request for the variance for parking. The use is going to be a packaging and a food, essentially.
Okay, right.
So it's going to be like packaged food deliveries
Okay.
that you can order online and then gets packaged there,
Oh, okay.
and then delivered.
No beer deliveries.
No
Not
beer.
anymore out of there. I second them. Thank you. I second the motion.
Thank you.
Okay, I have a motion by Ms. Perez and a second by Zagwe.
Ms. Perez,
Yes.
Mr. Donidor.
He's away.
Oh. he's away. Mr. Zogby,
Yes.
Mr. Junco,
Yes.
Ms. De La Vega,
Yes.
Ms. Garcia Robles.
Yes.
Motion carries. The item is approved.
Thank you. Have a good night.
You too.
Okay, item G.
Second reading and public hearing of proposed ordinance granting a special use permit to allow the expansion of the neighborhood business district overlay in relation to a proposed development including 18 residential units pursuant to the Hialeah Code of Ordinance Section 98-161, a variance permit to allow 12 units with a total area of less than 700 square feet, where 700 square feet is a minimum required, and only 25% of the residential units may have a minimum area of 500 square feet. Allow an interior west side setback of 10 feet where 15 feet are required. Allow 3.7% pervious area where 30% is a minimum required. On contrast to Hialeah Code of Ordinance, Section 98-1607.3 subsection I, 98-1630.3 subsection E2, and the Hialeah Landscape Manual dated December 12, 2022, and allow a partial waiver of the minimum landscape requirements through the landscape mitigation pursuant to Hialeah Code of Ordinance, Section 98-2235. Properties located at 167 West Sixth Street and 175 West Sixth Street, Hialeah zoned R3D Multiple Family District and legally described herein. Repealing all ordinances or parts of ordinances in conflict herewith, providing penalties for violation hereof, providing for a severability clause, and providing for an effective date.
Okay, this item's on second reading. It's open for the public. There's no one. Pleasure of the board.
Motion.
Motion by
Second.
Zogby and a second by Junco.
Second by whom, ma'am?
Junco.
Mr. Tumidor is away. Mr. Zogby,
Yes.
Mr. Junco,
Yes.
Ms. De La Vega,
Yes.
Ms. Garcia Robles.
Yes.
Ms. Perez.
Yes.
Motion carries. The item is approved.
Thank you.
Okay, moving on. Good night. Moving on to item H.
First reading of proposed ordinance rezoning property from R1, one family district to R2, 1 and 2 family residential district. Granting a variance permit to replat the property into two substandard lots and to allow the construction of a duplex on each substandard lot, having a frontage of approximately 42.08 feet and 42.01 feet, and a total lot area of approximately 4,205.38 square feet and 4,064.29 square feet, where the frontage of 75 feet and a total lot area of 7,500 square feet are required. Variance permit to allow the following setback adjustments for west lot. Allow the front setback of 22 feet where 25 feet are required. Allow interior east side setback of 0 feet where 7.5 feet are required. Allow rear setback of 14 feet where 25 feet are required. Allow 43% lot coverage where 30% is a maximum allowed, and allow 2 parking spaces where 4 parking spaces are required. Variance permit to allow the following adjustments for the east lot. Allow the front setback of 15 feet where 25 feet are required. Allow the interior west side setback of 0 feet where 7.5 feet are required. Allow 36.3% lot coverage where 30% is a maximum allowed, and allow 2 parking spaces where 4 parking spaces are required. All in contrast to Hialeah Code of Ordinance sections 98-1601, subsection B, 98-1834, subsection A1, 98-2189, subsection 1, and 98-1630.3, subsection E2. And in contrast to Hialeah Landscape Manual, subsection E. Property located at 560 East 7th Avenue, Hialeah zoned R1, one family district, and legally described herein. Repealing all ordinances or parts of ordinances in conflict herewith, providing penalties for violation hereof, providing for a severability clause, and providing for an effective date.
Okay, this item is on first reading. It's not open for the public, but I don't see the applicant here.
I don't know if you recall, but the applicant was here.
Yes.
But since he works with Felix Lazarte, maybe it's not him like the owner, and he forgot that he had to stay.
Well,
But remember, this was recommended for denial, and they came with a new project. The board will probably still there, and you voted to bring it back for approval, and this is first reading. If you
Yes,
want,
but
we can bring the board from there.
it was to bring it back, but for them
Yeah.
to show us and explain to,
Yeah.
it was for them to present it, not
Okay,
just to
well,
vote.
you can always
So
table it.
it's the council's call. Normally, depending on what the council wants, you can hear an uncontested or a project with no issues without the applicant there, if planning is recommending that. But normally, if the applicant is not there, you continue the matter. And any renoticing, unless you continue it to a date and time certain, any renoticing would have to be paid for by the applicant.
A
Well,
motion
it's
to
a pleasure.
table in that case.
Okay. Table till when?
How long,
Next meeting.
we can do it the next meeting? That's
Well,
fine.
then the clerk needs to announce that it's continued till, because if you don't do that, you do have to renotice legally.
Okay,
You
so
need to announce a date and a time. I mean, not
Yeah.
you, I mean, the clerk.
yeah. So we have a motion to table by Zogby and a second by.
If I may, through the chair,
Yes.
Ms. Storch, can you refresh my memory? What were, I remember the item, but what was it that we had asked for him to
No, it was denied by the Planning and Zoning Board because they first came with a project that
Right.
looked more like an apartment building.
Right.
So they went back to the drawing table and they came with a project that looks more residential, that you have the boards there. So you recommended to bring it back as a first reading for an approval.
Okay,
He's there. No, he's not here.
there he is.
There he is.
Okay.
Mr. Riley, there's a great danger in stepping out of the room when your item is called, okay? So but.
Yes, please. I apologize. I walked outside with the other applicant. I thought you would have enough time. But again, for the record, my name is Bill Riley with office located at 16343 Southwest 256th Street, here on behalf of the applicant. We have display boards. This is the item that we talked about 2 weeks ago with regard to a duplex structure that would have 2 bedrooms, 2 baths. And the entire duplex would have 4 bedrooms with 4 baths, just like a single family house. But it allows for additional living units, allows for more reasonable type of price point for rentals. And we worked very hard on the design of the product to make sure that it, one, is a higher quality type of architectural design that has the aesthetic natures of them. And I think we achieved that. The only reason that we have a negative staff recommendation last time was only because the application is primarily in a single family district. But there was testimony last time at the hearing that you may recall, where they mentioned about the driveways, and those driveways that are right adjacent to our property are extensive. And there's multiple cars parked in those driveways because there's a code enforcement problem within that area of people having more than a single family living in those units. By allowing this application, I think you avoid that continuing effect because you have one, if you look at the boards, and I'm sorry, I have I messed up my shoulder, so I would hold it up, but I don't have any strength in my shoulder. You remember, we have on two opposite sides the driveways. So if you're at any point at the intersection, it would appear like this is a single family home. You don't see two driveways at any point. The units themselves are recessed. So from the visual aspect on the sidewalk, from a pedestrian viewpoint, you'd only see a modest structure. You wouldn't even see the entire structure itself because of the recessed portion of the property. That's basically a recap of the last presentation that we provided before the board. And I just want to incorporate that presentation into the record today. And I'm happy to elaborate on any items that you may have, but I'm also happy to answer any questions that you may have.
Okay. Any questions? from the council?
If I may, Deborah?
Yes, ma'am. Oh,
In that neighborhood, this is basically a duplex, but it's two lots, so it's a fourplex, right?
Yes.
Okay, so in that neighborhood, what's the layout? How many?
By the map, everything is single family homes.
Okay.
And the lot that is north of this one, they came in the past and they were approved to replat the property into two substandard lots, and they built a house on each of the lots. They came first with a proposal that looked like an apartment building. So when the planning and zoning board, they told them their concerns, and also they read my recommendation, they went back to the architects and they decided to do something different that looks more residential. And this is what you have before you.
Okay. And then in each of those drive-in, the driveways on each of them?
Since it is a corner, that's a good thing. So they have two cars parked in tandem on one of the streets, and then two other cars on the other side. So if you go into one street, it looks as one unit, and the other street, it looks as
Parked
another.
on the street, like parallel, like
No, like inside.
in the driveway, because it says 2 parking spaces where 4 are required.
One unit of 2 for one unit of the ground floor and 2 for the other unit, and here you have another 4 for the.
Okay, why does it say 2 spaces where 4 parking spaces are required?
They are no, but that is not the variance. They don't need that variance because in low density, you're allowed to.
Madam Planning Director, I'm sorry, can you please speak into the microphone because none of this is on the record otherwise.
They don't need a parking variance. If this was like a multifamily, it would be needed because tandem parking is not allowed, but in low densities, it is allowed. So they are tandem parking the cars. They have the 4 parking spaces because one is tandem parked behind the other one.
So we have no duplexes on record in that neighborhood?
No.
And 2-story buildings, 2-story homes in that neighborhood? None.
Most of them are one story.
Are single story. Okay.
I do recall that we spoke about this last time. You said that they can, if they build a regular residential house, they can go 2 stories up.
It's true that in single family homes can have 2 stories and a half.
Yeah.
Like I mentioned, the one across the street from Molina's that looks like an apartment building, but that was built by code. That is allowed by right.
Yeah, 2-story, but right. Okay. All right. Thank you.
Yeah, the only thing I would add to that is with regard to the parking variance, as the planning director mentioned, when this application first started, it had a different design. And the design has become improved over different reiterations. This is the final reiteration that we've had, and it includes additional parking spaces with a tandem layout. It includes different locations of the parking and the recess of the building. So we tried to perfect it to make it appear really as a single family product. It just allows on the interior layout, it allows for additional families to be to allow them to have a home in the neighborhood and allow them to have a acceptable price point. So we think we achieved that goal. And when talking about the 2 stories, this is lower than what would be permitted within the zoning district today. You could build a taller structure, a single family home, taller structure. And the reason that they haven't is because there hasn't been redevelopment in this area for quite some time. So decades before this application has come before you was the last time there was really any redevelopment. And back in the 70s and 60s and so forth, when those homes were built, it was just customary to have the single family homes. But we don't have a variance request for the height. It's actually lower than what could be permitted there today.
Through the chair.
You're recognized.
Oh, thank you. Mr. Riley, I love that name. Anyhow,
Yes, sir.
it's close. It's close to the other name. And maybe Deborah can answer. You said each duplex will be composed of, which, yeah, any single family will have that, a total of 4 bedrooms, 4 baths. Each of the duplexes.
Yes, sir.
We're replatting into 2 different plats. And what's the parking variation? How many parking spaces are going to be provided for each duplex? They've got it, they've met it? 4?
For each unit, 2 parking spaces. Each unit
Each
will
unit.
have 2 parking spaces. But
It will in
Yes,
this.
it will. But each unit has 2 bedrooms.
Okay. Yes. Yeah. On each unit. So it's okay.
Yeah.
So it's 2 bedrooms,
One of the
4
main concerns in
each
their
unit, it's
first
4 baths.
in their first application is that the units were too large and they had 3 bedrooms. So one of the recommendations was to reduce the size of the units.
So they're
And
within the parking variance now? Within
They-
the code?
They don't need a parking.
They don't need it with
they
the
don't
with the
need-
low density on, gotcha. It's a beautiful, beautiful project. Thank you, sir. Like I could see that from here, but thank you. Thank you.
Anyone else have any questions?
Through the council president, if I
Yes.
may. Mr. Riley,
Yes,
was
sir.
it clear in here that I know that the plans were revised, that is there a reference to the most current plans in here, or have you confirmed on the record that it's per plans dated such?
I don't know why what is in the agenda did not exclude the parking, because we corrected the application and what we sent to the city council, but Alex knows and he will change the ordinance, because here we stroke out what is the variance for the parking. So it's the same
So
thing.
this
that
is
we
going to
have-
be excluding that variance for the parking?
Yeah, excluding the variance to allow 2 parking spaces where 4 parking spaces are required, and excluding the variance to allow 2 parking. Well, it's repeated even here, so.
Well, Alex is here, so I'm sure he's taking
Okay,
notes of
he
this.
knows, I already told him and we will correct it.
Right,
We will
and my
rechange that.
question was, because I know the plans changed, I just want to be sure that it's per,
The rest is the same.
the rest is the same.
Yeah,
It-
it
The
applies.
reference to the plans is accurate.
Exactly,
Thank
yes.
you, thank you.
Through the chair,
You're recognized.
have there been any complaints, any any resident outcry, anything like that? No?
No, and also some of the houses there in the maps appear as single family homes, but maybe they are not.
Okay, all right. Sounds good. Motion.
I have a motion
Second.
by Tumidor, second by Zogby.
Mr. Tumidor,
Yes.
Mr. Zogby,
Yes.
Mr. Junco,
Yes.
Ms. De La Vega,
Yes.
Ms. Garcia Robes.
Yes.
Ms. Perez,
No.
Motion carries. The item is approved. Second reading and public hearing is scheduled for March 25th, 2025.
Thank you
Okay,
very much.
thank you. Moving on to item I.
First reading of proposed ordinance approving the closure, vacation, and abandonment of the right-of-way portion for public use. The north half of the adjacent 12-foot alley lying south and adjacent lot 1, block 125B of the abandonment plat of 13th addition to Hialeah, as recorded in Plat Book 34, page 26 of the Public Records of Miami-Dade County, Florida, encompassing approximately 237 square feet, more or less, contingent to the relocation agreements with the City of Hialeah Public Works, FPL, AT&T, Florida City Gas, and Comcast, as depicted and legally described in Exhibit A, repealing all ordinances or parts of ordinances in conflict herewith, providing penalties for violation hereof, providing for a severability clause, and providing for an effective date.
Okay, this item's not, it's on first reading. It's not open for the public. I'm sorry. I think your microphone is on.
Through the chair, is anybody here to speak regarding this?
Is anyone here on behalf of item I? Yes.
This is a portion of a right of way that ends in the railroad tracks, and the applicant has been using it for years already as part of his property. So now he's officially coming to close and abandon it. So there's not
Okay.
much to think about this.
Okay, so pleasure of the board.
Sorry, motion? Yeah.
Motion by Zogby, second by Dunjuan.
Mr. Zogby,
Yes.
Mr. Junco,
Yes.
Ms. De La Vega,
Yes.
Ms. Garcia Robles.
Yeah.
Ms. Perez,
Yes.
Mr. Dunidor.
Yes.
Motion carries. The item is approved. Second reading and public hearing is scheduled for March 25th, 2025.
Okay, item J.
Ma'am, if I could record Councilmember Dunidor's vote for item F
Yes.
and for item G.
Yes.
Thank you. So we are on item J.
Jay.
J.
First reading of proposed ordinance granting a variance permit to allow 23 parking spaces where 27 parking spaces are required. In contrast to Hialeah Code of Ordinance, Section 98-2189, subsection 2. Property located at 920 West 84th Street, Hialeah, zoned M1 Industrial District, and described in Exhibit A, repealing all ordinances or parts of ordinances in conflict herewith, providing penalties for violation hereof, providing for a severability clause, and providing for an effective date.
Okay, this item's on first reading. It's not open for the public. Is there anyone? Oh,
Motion.
motion by Council Member Zogby.
Slow down, Frank.
Through the chair, can we get
You
the
recognize?
information on?
Yeah.
Good evening, Frank De La Paz, 1100 Southwest 104th Street, Miami, Florida. This property, which has suffered a great deal since the day it was built. Back in the day, it even caught fire and it was rebuilt. And then the avenue, 84th Street, was widening and it was affected also. The current property owner, back in 2011, he rented half of the bay to a paint and body shop that somehow ended up with a license. The tenant left, new tenant came in, and there were some mistakes done in the prior approval regarding the parking. And what we are trying to accomplish is not to be to shut down a business that has been there for over almost 15 years, and to correct the mistake by granting a variance for the site where the body shop is, for the parking that will be required until the day that it no longer be a body shop, and then it will be continued to be used as an industrial. Mind you, originally, the property had more parking spaces, but it was eminent domain on 84th Street, and some of the parking disappeared.
I want to raise a technical point. I did not want to interrupt the speaker because he was speaking, but I want to remind the council, and again, I'm not the lobbying police, frankly, but
I did
our
register
under-
as a lobbyist in
All
this
right.
case.
Oh, you did? Okay, that's what I did not
I
know.
had no choice
All right,
because
okay, all right, then scratch that.
Staff is gonna go confirm.
So, can I explain something?
Yes.
Thank you.
This was built as a bigger site that included 3 warehouses, and they were separated by a 30 feet space. So then when they were divided, they ended dividing that space. So when this application came to us for the BTR, since they were changing ownership, we realized that the space that belonged to the 2 properties was used with parking that was informally marked as parking, and it didn't comply with the requirement of the driveway or the dimensions of the parking spaces. So we spoke with the owners and we agreed that within a certain amount of time, they had to correct that. So they came with a new plan where they now are placing all that angle parking. They're doing parallel parking, and this resulted, is true, they have a hardship because of the situation that they divided the lots and because they lost some spaces on 84th Street, but where at the end they came up with 23 parking spaces where 27 are required. So it's okay. It's not such a big difference, and it was really a hardship, and they are doing now things correctly and marking the spaces as they should be.
Well, anyone else have any questions? I have a motion by Zogby. A second by Tundidor.
Mr. Junco,
Yes.
Ms. De La Vega,
Yes.
Garcia Robles.
Yes.
Ms. Perez,
Yes.
Mr. Tundidor,
Yes.
Mr. Zogby.
Yes.
Motion carries. The item is approved. Second reading and public hearing is scheduled for March 25th, 2025.
thank you very much. Have a nice
Good
day.
night. Item K.
Recommendation of denial by the Planning and Zoning Board granting a variance permit to allow a rear setback of 8.75 feet where 25 feet are required for an existing addition to be legalized. Property located at 7,000 West Third Avenue, Hialeah Zones R3 Multiple Family District.
Okay, this item is a recommendation of denial.
Through the chair.
You recognized.
The applicant is not here because probably he was embarrassed in the Planning and Zoning Board meeting because he came with a story that this was an enclosed terrace for his sons that were allergic to mosquitoes, but everything there looked as an illegal unit not connected to a house. And with an aluminum roof on top, impossible to legalize. And there was a neighbor here, the adjacent neighbor, these are townhouses, saying that he advertised this in Zillow and rented it as a second unit. So that's why it was denied, and then that's why he's not here.
Okay. Okay, so
Through the chair.
you recognized.
Deborah, correct me if I'm wrong. I know special variances were created years ago for Mango Hill, if I'm not mistaken, which allowed them to build aluminum roofs way past this is different.
But for a terrace, an open
Yes,
terrace. And
right.
there were variances granted for open
Yeah.
terrace, but not for enclosed.
Including in Palm Springs here, they did those variances, because I see what's adjacent to them, but I can't tell here. They may be terraces.
Many have open terraces. but
Yeah,
This
yeah, I
one
can see
has,
that.
since they have like an alley
know.
in between,
Yeah,
they
it's a
have
separate
access
structure.
there, they have fences with doors. So this person built this unit not connected to a house with an independent door. So they have all these rear parts converted into a unit. So if he would have come for an aluminum roof open on 3 sides, that would have been different.
Yes. No, I don't like this. So
Through the chair. Deborah, is there any pictures that we can see or
Well, you have the plans.
You can see it on the.
You have the plans and
Yeah.
also,
County.
since it's a corner unit and you looking good, you will also see the fence with the door. But in the floor plan, in the existing first floor plan, you can see very clearly that they have a closet and a complete bathroom, and it's not connected to the house.
Yes,
And
I-
also you cannot have a living space under an aluminum roof, so there's no possibility of legalizing this.
Thank you.
Okay,
And through the chair, it's unfortunate, right, that somebody would feel embarrassed to come up and to speak to us, right? Because I think that's what we're here for, to hear it out, but it's hard to make a decision, against the board if we don't have, somebody to speak with and have dialogue with.
We can call him, tell him that his item was for consideration and he didn't come up, so.
yeah, so it's that corner one, right?
I motion to uphold the denial in the meantime.
Because even if you give him the opportunity, it's not that he has the possibility of legalizing it. This cannot be legalized.
Okay, so I have a motion by Zogby. Yes.
To uphold the denial.
Mhm.
Or approve the denial.
Uphold the denial?
Yes.
There a second? I'm sorry.
I don't know. Someone made it. Oh. Did he second?
I did not hear a second.
Oh,
Not yet, right? I had a. Mine
Second
was
by
the
the
first motion.
Ms. De La Vega,
no, De La Vega already moved.
so if you say yes, you're
Yes,
voting
you
to
didn't.
uphold. If you vote yes,
And no is to.
it's to,
Voting yes is to uphold the denial. In this case, the motion was to uphold the denial.
so yes. Ms. Garcia Robles?
Yes.
Ms. Perez?
Yes.
Mr. Rodriguez, I'm sorry, Mr. Dundee,
Yes.
Mr. Zogby,
Yes.
Mr. Junco.
Yes.
Motion carries, the denial is upheld.
Okay, and there's no